I just really appreciate how much you've heard in such a short amount of time. Well, it's taken me a lifetime, and you kind of know it already.
Oh, no, I don't know. Just learning a little bit more. And I'm always learning new things.
And I can't wait to get ready for our presentation together.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah, and you don't want to stop. Some music or something.
All right, then we'll adjourn the Board of Education closed session and reconvene the regular Board of Education open session tonight at 7:07. And we would like to open tonight's meeting welcoming the newest addition to the Monrovia family, baby Jordan Ashley Hing, daughter of instructional coach Philip Hing and wife Genevieve, was born at 3:08 a.m. on June 13th. After a few weeks in NICU, she was finally able to come home and is now a healthy 2-month-old at 5 pounds and 8 ounces. So welcome to the newest member of our family. All right, open. Brian, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Absolutely. If we can all please stand. Hand over your heart. 3, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let the roll call show that we're all here. Mr. Bavokian is, I see his briefcase here, so he must be close by, but he's not in here right now, but will be shortly, I'm sure. Everyone else is at the dais. Closed session today, we talked about several issues facing the district. Heard that the opening day of school went well. We took no official action. All right, order of business. Do we have any changes to the order of business?
We do not.
All right. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting of July 24th?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti? Yes. Board Member Hammonds?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Moving on to board member reports. Ms. Lockerbie, I believe you have a report. A short report, you said.
I said a short report. I wonder if it's going to be a short report. I hope it's a short report. So, today was the first day of school. I was really happy. Despite the picture and my sincere happiness at the first day of school, I cried. It's really hard to let go of your kids and trust them to someone else. And even though I cried, I have that trust. And I'm going to get emotional. I'm sorry. After being on this board for the past 8 months, and being in the district for the past 7 years, I've loved the teachers, and I've gotten such good results, and seen how dedicated and hardworking they all are, and not just the teachers, but the staff. And now being here, I see how hardworking everybody in this district is. So Ed Services and HR and Business Services and MOT, Fernando, and the cafeteria workers, and everybody works so hard. And Dr. Therosian, I talk to you more than I talk to my husband.
Whoa.
And I just want to tell everybody thank you, because I have other choices and I have other options, and I made the right choice. And I'm really excited about what the future holds for my children. And thank you, Dr. Jackson. Thank you, Mrs. Jackson, and everybody. And thank you, fellow board members. I know that what I went through today and what Maritza went through today, because you have done it, and it's hard, but woo! but we're here, and good things are going to happen. So thank you.
All right, Mr. Travanti.
Thank you, President Gilliland. As you probably already know, entering TK in kindergarten and going to school for the first time can be very anxious for both students and parents and guardians. We've all been through it. So back in February, I introduced an idea to the PTA Council and all the elementary school presidents. This was an idea I took from our days when we lived in Milford, Connecticut, where my daughter started kinder. We walked out of the house to find a welcome yard sign from her elementary school. Yard signs were placed in all the incoming kindergartners' yards. I always thought it was a brilliant idea and a great way to start kinder and the new school year. Well, I'm happy to report we have started this initiative right here at Monrovia Unified, and the first elementary that stepped up was Mayflower Elementary School. Volunteers delivered these signs on Sunday. Over 100 signs were posted in yards for new TK students and kindergarten students attending Mayflower. So as you can see right here on the PowerPoint, take a look at these smiles. These kids were super excited to start school. These are only a fraction of the pictures that I saw posted at the Mayflower PTSA Facebook page, but you can just feel good when you see these pictures. Let me share some quotes from parents. Now he's excited to start school. And another parent said, sparking that excitement and love for their school before they even set foot on the campus and creating a lifelong love for learning. We were so blown away when we saw this. Thank you for the extra special welcome. So I'd like to thank the Mayflower PTSA President, Sarah Edgington. I don't know if she made it in tonight. And all the PTSA board members for taking this idea and running with it. So if you are one of those volunteers, please stand up. If any of them were here that delivered, okay. It's the first day of school, so I know they could not come, but they did a fabulous job. We were all out there Sunday afternoon delivering these signs, and it was a lot of fun to do that. So I do suspect more of our elementary schools will be adopting this practice starting next year. So, you know, I'd love to share best practices, and I'm sure Sarah would love to talk to other PTA volunteers from the other schools, and we can really get this going throughout Monrovia. I'd like to thank also Dr. Terosian for supporting this idea and ensuring all the legal requirements were met. I couldn't be happier with the results, so I'm very, very proud of this one. And that's it.
Thank you. I just want to give a shout out to the whole district, all the staff, all of the administrators, all the teachers, everyone that was involved in making the first day so successful. I know we've been kind of leading up to this, so a lot of people have been at work and at the school sites and whatnot for several days, but everything I hear about today is things went so smoothly and so well, and that's a tribute to what a great staff we have, everybody involved. And I especially want to thank Cabinet and Dr. Terosian. I know having a first day of school and a board meeting on the same day had to be very stressful and create a lot of extra work for you, but thank you for doing it, and we appreciate the job well done. With that, we'll move on to the report.
Mr. Gilliland,
yes.
May I ask some questions of Maritza about her board
It's not really on the agenda, so we can't really discuss it, so you'll have to ask those questions when three of us aren't here.
I will be talking to you later. Thank you.
Unless you want to agendize that at some point in the future. Sorry about that. Just the rules. All right, we'll move on to the report from the superintendent.
Thank you, President Gilliland, members of the board. First, I'd like to introduce the newest members of the Monrovia Unified School District family with some amazing new leadership. Actually, why don't we start with our partnership with the Monrovia Police Department. And we have Officer Montez here. I think I'll ask Dr. Jackson to say a few words as I invite Officer Montez and Captain Wilkins to the podium, and also recognize Chief San Victoris for joining us and providing constant support and partnership.
Give me the honor just to say a few words on behalf of the district. We're pleased to recognize Officer Thomas Montez as our new school resource officer, and the continued longstanding supportive relationship between the Monrovia Unified School District, the City of Monrovia, and the Monrovia Police Department. Officer Montez is a familiar face here in the Monrovia Unified School District, as he has worked with many of our site administrators in the past. We know that his background in psychology, his knowledge and experience in working with individuals of all ages will allow him to provide excellent support for our sites and, more importantly, our students. I want to share two other things. Our administrators who have already worked with them say he's professional, he's calm, and he's been an asset. He's already been an asset to our students and their families. And I think it's quite fitting. I know Officer Montez took an opportunity this afternoon or today to make his way around to each and every one of our schools here in the district. So I think it's a testament to his commitment as well as the commitment of the Monrovia Police Department. So with that said, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, President Gilliland and honorable board members. I'm Captain Rob Wilkin with the Monrovia Police Department, and I'm honored and privileged to introduce to you Thomas Montez, your new SRO. Tom has 12 years of tenured experience with the Monrovia Police Department. He holds a bachelor's degree in psychology, as was already mentioned, from Cal State Fullerton. He is an Army veteran who left the service as the rank of sergeant, served our country in Operation Iraqi Freedom with the 113th Medical Company. His job while he was in the service was not only to help our wounded, but was also to help our soldiers deal with the effects of combat stress, better known as PTSD. Tom is married with 2 children. He lives locally in the San Gabriel Valley, and he serves his community that he resides in by being a Little League baseball coach and also a volunteer at his son's school. I know Tom, we've had several conversations. He's very dedicated with our police department. Like already said, he's very calm, rational, and he really looks forward to his new position, working for you and working collaboratively with the police department as your new school resource officer. With that, Thomas.
Thank you very much. I'm happy and excited to take on this new position. One thing I want to bring out is to be a good role model for our students and young adults throughout our school district. And I just want to make sure I help as many as I can in their formative years coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Montez. And we're going to go a little bit out of order. Do you mind if I just continue with my introductions?
Before you move on, I'm not sure everybody understands exactly what an SRO is, and we've had such a great partnership with Monrovia since we're introducing our new SRO. Would you mind just kind of overviewing why this board feels it's so important to have a police officer in partnership with us?
Well, I'll begin by saying that SRO stands for our School Resource Officer. And this is a position that is in partnership with the City of Monrovia and the Monrovia Police Department. We liaise regularly to try and provide additional services to our students and positive role models on campus. With the position of the SRO, this is not reaction, but it is about forging appropriate relationships with adults, having some legal guidance from the officer who would be speaking formally and informally to students, having class presentations, and he would be really going to each one of our schools and establishing those relationships. He said it best when he said he wanted to touch the lives of students and make a positive impact, and that really is his caring nature. And I really look forward to seeing him fulfill those responsibilities.
Positive, not punitive.
Absolutely right.
Relationship, yes.
And I just wanted to, if I may, take the opportunity to say thank you. We saw you out there this morning, all of you out on the, out around all of the schools this morning, and my kids saw you and I saw you, and just thank you for your presence and for your commitment. Thank you so much.
And I'd like to invite Charles Puvakin, our Director of Informational Technology, to introduce Alan Chow. Alan, why don't you join him at the podium?
Good evening, President Gilliland, board members, cabinet, members of the public. I'd like to introduce to you our new systems analyst. This person right here is Mr. Alan Chow. We're certainly glad to have him now. He comes to us from the Harbor City Unified, bringing years of experience, methods true and tried. He has knowledge of various platforms to work on our system. He's going to help our district with his technology wisdom. And while on some days he works on our firewall, on some nights he loves to play basketball. Dribbling on the court and making shots that are off the hook. Sometimes he needs to get away from staring at that Chromebook. He's an avid Dodger fan and loves Dodger dogs. One day he'll love looking through technology logs. When I thought about what else I could say about this man, I asked him and he said, "Here to help however I can." Mr. Alan Chow, he's been very busy today. Is there anything else you would like to say?
I wasn't expecting that. Wow. President Gillian, Dr. Thorosian, members of the board, members of the cabinet, members of the public, good evening. I am humbled to be given this opportunity to serve the students, the teachers, and the staff of Monrovia Unified in the field of technology. And I'm just, like Charles said, just here to help however I can to make everybody's lives easier. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. And Alan has actually hit the ground running and is already helping us with a few different surprises that we've had in the technology world. And I'm actually going to excuse our poet resident, Mr. Charles Puvakin, as well as Alan, to go and continue to figure out how to make these things work. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Courtney Glass, and I think Dr. Kaiser will be doing that.
Mr. Glass, would you like to join me at the podium, please? President Gilliland, board, and public, it gives me great pleasure tonight to introduce to you our new Director of Curriculum and Instruction in Ed Services, Mr. Courtney Glass. Courtney comes to us all the way from Clifton Middle School, where he served as the assistant principal. He has served as a teacher and a coach as well at Monrovia High School. Courtney has readily proven himself as a tremendous asset to the district and to the Educational Services Department as he has jumped into the work and picked up the reins as a true leader. Every day with Courtney, there are solved problems, clear communications, and a good dose of teamwork. A famous coach, Coach Wooden, once said, "Make each day your masterpiece," and Courtney truly lives by that maxim. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Courtney to this new position. Thank you, Courtney.
I didn't really think I'd say much, but I'm happy to be here, happy to continue. This is year 20 actually in the district, and I'm part of it. Live near it and work in it every day, and I'm happy to be part of what's going on here from this office to support those schools. So thank you. Thank you.
Did you have anybody you wanted to introduce?
Sure. They don't want me to introduce them, but that is my family in the back. My lovely wife, who is also new. I don't think she's getting introduced officially tonight, but she started as a second grade teacher today at Mayflower. Alicia, and then my 3 children there. On the left, Nathan leaves for the University of Portland next week as a freshman. Leah starts 8th grade, and Jacob on the end, who shares a little bit of my likeness, starts his 2nd year at UC Irvine next year. So that's the team right there. Thank you, President Gilliland.
Thank you, Mr. Glass. And I'd like to invite Mrs. Jackson, principal of Clifton Middle School, to introduce her new right hand, Rich Morrison. Rich, do you want to join Jennifer at the podium? You made it sound like it was an option.
Good evening, Board of Education, District Administration, and Monrovia community. It is an honor to be here tonight to introduce our newest assistant principal, Mr. Rich Morrison. This is very full circle, as you know. I'm going to start for a second by thanking Courtney for all of his years of service, being a team together for 8 years. And so what's happening right now, as Rich has entered the dark side, is we are working very hard and very diligently, and Courtney is still a guiding light in that process. So one of the things that makes me so impressed with Rich in such a short amount of time is he has risen to the occasion. We have worked really long days, really long nights in the last few weeks, and he's 150% committed to this job. He's been in the district for 24 years, serving in many capacities, and I think that lens that he looks through, from instructional specialist, teacher, nutrition network, parent, when you combine all of that, I think that's a true asset for the job of assistant principal. And I can say without a doubt, maybe you disagree, but we make a pretty darn good team. And even though I feel a couple nights this week I might have needed to put some toothpicks on his eyes, he didn't leave me high and dry. He waited until the work was done. And I do believe it's a testament to his commitment to Clifton and all that's ahead for him in this new administrative position. So, Rich, I'm excited to have you on board. It's already been fun, and we have lots of work to do.
Thank you to everybody. Not much to say other than the fact that I've been afforded such opportunities in Monrovia over 24 years. I've built my life in this area with my lovely family, my lovely wife, Mrs. Morrison, right over there, and I have 2 children, but they're at their various activities and committed to what they're doing, so they're not here with me tonight. But just thankful for the opportunities that Monrovia has afforded me, and I'm super excited and pumped up to be part of the Clifton Cub team, Cub Nation, and I'm already feeling Cub amazing. So thank you so much.
As go ahead. Yeah, as Ms. Huss kind of scrolls through some of the pictures, we wanted to give you a sense of what the first day of school was like, and really everybody enjoyed a great day. One of the things that we like to do is make sure that our district office team goes through and there's somebody on every campus to provide additional assistance. So we had people everywhere, and it was a great, great day. I want to say a special thank you to Patrick Garcia and Brian Elrigi, who were both enrolling students, I believe, at Clifton Middle School and assisting, because they were all tasked to go in and help in every way possible, and they sure did. So we really are off to a great start. I want to also show that our retirees, what you have in the background is Annie Van Dyke helping at our Foothill Unity Center back to school event, the 21st annual back to school event, where hundreds of kids were provided some much needed supplies. It is always a great event, and we are so thankful to have them in our community. On that note, I also would like to just mention that it was early this morning that one of the trucks of the Foothill Unity Center was stolen from their lot. Now, this is a nonprofit organization. They had it. This truck helps with over 100 weekly pickups of in-kind food donations. Annually, this amounts to about $2 million. And, you know, these are donations from all over the San Gabriel Valley. And they help all who are, you know, have food insecurities, and it is just such a shame to have had that occur. But thank you to the Foothill Unity Center for all they do for not only our students, but our community. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Dr. Therosian. And welcome to all the new folks, including the ones that were introduced here tonight. And thank you once again to staff for all that you do. We'll move on to public comments. If you have a comment to share with the Board of Education, please fill out the form and give it to Secretary Huff over here. Or this is prior to the meeting, and I almost read prior to the meeting, and the meeting's already started, so you can give it to her at any point in the meeting. In order to accomplish board business in a timely, efficient manner, public input's limited to no more than 5 minutes per person per item. So we'll start out with items that are not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers for items that are not on the agenda?
Yes, President Gilliland. I believe Mr. Blanton would like to speak.
Is this for an item not on the agenda or for one that is on the agenda?
I was told that it was going to be on the agenda, so I'm shocked when I look at my form, I put question marks in the two spaces.
So are you referring to the item on the agenda that is number 7 under action items? We have a request to modify record of student ID number 222000874. That would be the item you would like to address? All right. Are there, before we get to that, we can get to that next. Are there any public comments for items that are not on this agenda? All right, seeing and hearing none, then we'll move on to those. And Mr. Blanton, if you would like to make your comments at this time, the agenda item won't be heard until we get to board business, which is always at the end. We take up our business at the end. But you're welcome to make your comments now, and we'll take up that agenda item when it comes up on the agenda. Or you can wait until the agenda item comes up. Your comments are limited to 5. We might give you a little leeway, but please try to limit them to 5 in respect for everybody here's time. 5 minutes is your time.
I can do what I want to do right now.
Excuse me?
Yes. I can do what I want to do right now.
Yes, right now is fine, or you can wait, either one. Yeah, and the time limit's the same whether you do it now or later, so.
As you're all aware, this is because you limited what I can do up here, like you're asking me. As you're all aware.
Could you please step up to the microphone so that we can?
Well, I can. Well, yeah, I have to be able to see that too. Delaware, he was involved in a fight. We've, give me my paper. Last 3 years, Anthony's been bullied, repeatedly physically assaulted, $390 backpacks destroyed. He has a permanent scar on his face. That's permanent from being assaulted. Nobody was disciplined for that. This latest problem started when water was poured over his head in his backpack. The next day, he was involved in the fight. He was struck multiple times. So far, Mr. Glass back there viewed the video. The one provided from the school board was the second app. It wasn't the first 3 seconds of the fight. I provided that to the board. What you're going to see here is pictures from that in slow motion. They're pixelated. Go ahead and, so you can't tell really who that is. Can you turn that so he can see that? Well, that's one way.
Either the board is going to be able to see that, or the community. And I think this was for the board. So let's. I don't want to get into your 5 minutes, but I'm just thinking that this would be best served for the board.
Well, this is part of the problem is you wanted this in a closed session, and this needs to be brought out because, as I was about to point out, Mr. Glass has viewed it, Ms. Kaiser's views it, you have used it, and you all came out with the same conclusion, which was it was mutual. These pictures are going to show, I can't see what, that's why I say I can't talk and show. So I will show the pictures. These are slow motion of what happened. You see where he's at? Both of them have their fists up, correct? Yes? Anybody? Notice how he's coming forward? He's still in the same place. Once again, fists up. Fists are starting to come down. Now, he's come all the way up. So how will you tell me that he's in a fight when it's the other individual who is coming forward? You can see his arms? See where his arms are? Look where his arms are, protecting himself. This is self-defense. This isn't a mutual fight. Look where he's at now. Look where his arms are. Look where his arms are. And they're say that this is mutual fight, I have to question your vision. Look how far in he is now. Both arms not out, up by his face, trying to protect himself. Punches thrown, look where his arms are. Trying to protect himself. That's self-defense. And for you guys to see this and claim it's mutual, I'm baffled. Once again, any question? I'd be happy to answer your questions. Like to comment or questions, but you always look how far in he is. Look at his head. He's got both of his arms covering his head so he doesn't get hit. But this is a mutual fight because he had his fists up. Look where his arms are again. Look where his head is. He's really attacking, isn't he? It really looks mutual. This is the first time where he starts to come forward. After being struck multiple times. And once again, you four individuals who viewed this say, well, it didn't happen. It's mutual. I'm not speechless because I'm obviously talking. Look at who's got their arms out. Look where his head is. Look where he's at. This is where he finally struck back and hit him. But after how many pictures that he came forward, but mutual. Coming forward again. So any comments on what you just saw? Because it's a lot different than the 3-second film. You're allowed to comment because we discussed the Brown Act. I'm also I'm baffled that you try and control what I put on today when the First Amendment says you can't do that. The Brown Act, all of a sudden the time frames come in because I come in here and criticize what I'm seeing. Literally, I'm fighting for his life. You just saw the lawsuit filed by that lady that her kid has brain damage, and you see a teacher walking right by. The kids at high school, they're much older, they're much bigger. Is he going to be next? Any comments?
Comment?
Because you can comment. Brown Act says you can.
We have reviewed all the documentation. Each one of us on this board have reviewed all the documentations. We reviewed the videotapes, reviewed all the testimony from this case, and we just want to hear from you tonight. So.
Well, you've heard from me, and now I'm asking for a response to what I just presented.
Well, the item is the last one on the agenda, and unless someone has some comments.
If you'd like me to stick around to the end where you start answering some questions, I have the time.
Our deliberations will be in closed session, but if there's a
that was another
question for it, the time on the agenda is when we would ask those in the open session. If you want to hang around, that's fine. I don't know that there will be any questions or there won't be any questions. I know our deliberations will be in closed session because it involves other students, and so we have to do that in closed session, and the whole testimony. But if anyone here has questions for you, the time for those questions would be when this agenda shows up, when this item shows up on the agenda. And like I say, board business is always toward the end of the meeting. I apologize for taking up your time, but if you want to wait and hear if there are any questions, you can feel free to wait.
Well, I'll be more than happy to wait, but my concern is, why was I told that I wouldn't be able to show those unless they were previewed, which is a violation of the First Amendment?
Because we don't allow unpreviewed.
You cannot control what is presented in front of you.
We can control the fact that in our open session, pictures of our students have to be controlled. Controlled is a tough word. It's probably not the right word.
You couldn't tell who that was, and I assured Superintendent Therosian that they were pixelated, which they are.
But if that has to be insured, so that's the reason we're required to preview those. So that you ask the question, it's answered further discussion of this agenda item needs to wait until it is on the agenda. So,
Okay, my question to you is, are you going to allow me to speak when you ask questions?
you can answer questions, yes, if there are questions. I don't know that there will be.
Okay, you want to give me a time frame of where I'm at?
We have,
Ms. Huff, could you provide him an agenda, a copy of the agenda,
Yeah,
so he can
please
see
do that.
what's?
I don't need that, but I'm just
Mr.
asking, do I
Glass will
have
get
time
one.
remaining to
That's
speak?
fine.
that's fine. We're just looking here to see approximate idea.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 items under action. There's a consent agenda, which is one motion for a lot of action. Then there are 6 items on here, and I can't tell you for sure how long those 6 items will take.
I'm asking you if I have time remaining on my 5 minutes of public comment.
You're quite a bit over your 5 minutes, so.
Okay, well,
Okay, but if you'd like to stay, it probably will be at least 30 minutes.
I will.
Probably more than that. but-
I will stay, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay. All right, any other comments for items on the agenda? All right, then, moving on to consent agenda, could I have a motion, please?
Move consent.
Second?
Please take the vote.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board Member Hammonds?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, then we'll move to action items, education services. Dr. Kaiser, would you tell us about a memorandum of understanding for Security Education Institute?
Certainly. Thank you, Board President Gilliland. The Board of Education is requested to approve a memorandum of understanding for the services provided by Security Education Institute to administer programs at Monrovia Community Adult School for the offering of specific career technical education courses. This partnership agreement will allow the Monrovia Community Adult School and Security Education Institute to work in collaboration for the Security Officer Training Program. These programs will be offered to adult students on the campus of Monrovia Community Adult School and the SEI, the Security Education Institute. Monrovia Community Adult School will provide classroom space for the non-firearms training for security officer and security officer armed programs. The Security Education Institute, or SEI, will provide its expertise in providing guard training and certifications for CPR, baton use, pepper spray use, firearm certification, fingerprinting, and BSIS guard card. The target enrollment for the class is 15 students with a maximum of 40 students. With this program coming to Monrovia, there will be no cost to the district, and it will be a revenue increaser with increased revenues to Monrovia Community Adult School between $50,000 and $100,000 per program, depending on the enrollment for the year.
And do we have a thought about how many students might enroll in this opportunity?
The Monrovia Community Adult School has been contacted by several students through the marketing firm that does the marketing for them, and they're looking at a class enrollment of probably around 30 students to start.
Great. All right, any other comments, questions?
I just had a question. I know that this says non-armed training, but you mentioned pepper spray. Do we know if they're going to release pepper spray in the rooms? I'm just thinking about something like that getting into the HVAC system. That's a great question. The non-armed training will occur on our school grounds.
the non-armed. The
Right.
armed training will be on the grounds of the Security Education Institute that will be provided in conjunction with our school district, but it will not be on our school district grounds. There's another facility called the Security Education Institute where students will go to that institute in conjunction with this program to receive the armed part of the training.
So pepper spray is considered being armed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, moving on to business services. Ms. Wu, would you talk to us about the energy management system for Plymouth and Clifton?
Yes, President Gilliland, I will ask Mr. Martinez, the MOT Director, will present the next 4 items in the Business Service Department.
Good evening, Board President Gilliland, board members, Dr. Torosian, members of the cabinet, and members of the public. So we are requesting for the Board of Education to ratify the purchase of the new HVAC energy management system for Plymouth and Clifton for the actually we are completed in terms of having installed all the units at both sites. So we are requesting for you to please approve this purchase.
One question is, we've got energy management systems on most of our sites now. Is this compatible or the same as those systems, or is it a completely separate software, et cetera?
It is an improvement of the old existing EMS system that we have throughout all the sites. This is a lot more efficient in terms of you're able to see exactly on real time what that AC unit is doing, versus having to go out there and log into an IP address, downloading. It's almost an obsolete system that we have out there from the pre-existing one.
So this will be a separate system on our computers?
It is, on our iPads, on our phones as well.
And ultimately, we'll be moving all the sites to this, I would assume.
That is the plan.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I have 2 questions. One, I noticed in the background it says this will be working with the iPhone app. If you didn't have an iPhone, would it work with an Android app as well?
Absolutely.
All right. And could you talk about for us what happens if the power goes out? What if the city power goes out and it comes back on? What happens to the energy program that we have put in place in these 2 schools? So, you know, if it's programmed to shut off at a particular time, will it still do that, or will it just blink?
No, it will still do that. It will still do that unless somebody goes out there and physically just turns that thermostat off. But it will restore the previous scheduled times for those units.
Does this system allow for remote changing of things? So, for example, if we had an event at the high school in which one of the rooms needed to be air conditioned because we had rented it out, can a person control the thermostat from off-site?
Absolutely, you can control it from wherever you're at. If you're 100 miles away from there, you just pull out your iPhone or your Android.
As long as you have the password.
Yeah. Who has access to this management system?
So the manager, being myself, have access to it. I can grant access to whomever
Would you like to ask?
whoever is elected or selected to have that same control.
Does this system only work for these particular air conditioning units, or is there a plan to tie all of our utilities into a singular controlled app?
In fact, the field lights over at Clifton, it has tied, we tested this system, it's called the Pelican system, to those lights out there. We tried them out. We have programmed those lights as well.
So the lights for Clifton will work. Do we know if it's compatible to the lights at the high school or the watering systems or anything else?
Mainly the lights. The water system, it would require a different EMS.
You know, I just think that there's so many times in which, since we all obviously live in the city, you drive by and you see things, and it would be fantastic if I can call somebody and say, you have a sprinkler head broken and you have a geyser coming out on whatever property it is, and I would know who to call so they can turn off the water at that particular site. Or for sporting events where lights aren't turning on, we have this every single year, and it's kind of a race to find who has access. Or sprinklers come on while teams are practicing and nobody knows how to turn it off. Air conditioning in the various auditoriums where we've leased them out and there's a production going on and it's about 170 degrees inside, but nobody really knows what's going on because there's nobody on site. So I'm hopeful that this system we can tie to as many things as possible, so we can provide better customer service to our students and to people who use our facilities.
And that is the intent. That's the initial intent, to have ease of access to, you just make that call, you send a text message to myself or whomever I have given access for the AC and tell me, room such and such is too hot. We're having an event. Right there, I just pull out my cell phone and I can schedule that event. I can turn that on right there and then. Going back to the water or the sprinkler system, we are in the process of working, or my department's in the process of working with a vendor. We're reaching out to different grants, or one grant mainly that has attracted us for a $100,000 grant that we're exploring those options as well, to where we can do what you just mentioned with the irrigation system as well.
Perfect.
Other questions, comments? Could I have a motion, please?
Actually, I have something.
I'm sorry, Mr. Runte, go ahead.
And so you said you have access to this remote way to turn on or turn off things. Have you already established your protocols on, if you're not available, who that would be on a weekend?
I have the technicians, the contractor that installed those units, they have access. I have given access to our secretary, Sheila, and I can give more access as we go along. As we move on, it's basically we're trying it out, see what's going to work best, how it's going to be working best, who should have that access. For example, Nelson, he has access to some of the sites, so he's one of the individuals that will be added to my list of trusted individuals to have access.
So in the future, when there is a contract, will that the point of contact be stipulated on that contract, so the individuals know who to contact in those circumstances?
I mean, does the contract specify the point of contact for them?
Use of facilities.
Yeah, so on the facility use application permit, we listed the district employee contact person. If that specific event have the issue, they can contact the person on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Additionally, if there's additional personnel who would be at the event from our own district, maybe custodial services, that would be the first point of contact. And then we go to somebody remotely. So sometimes it's somebody who is hired already as part of the contract itself, and sometimes it would go to a different level.
Is this system going to be something like a normal thermostat on the wall? So if random parent walked into a room and didn't feel comfortable, could I just manually change everything, change the programming?
No, it has both capabilities. Those thermostats, I lock them.
They're locked.
They're locked. Only specific ones are unlocked. For example, principals and whatnot, they have their thermostats are unlocked, so they can adjust it accordingly. It's actually what you have right there. That's a Pelican thermostat.
Which I would never dream of manipulating in this room, by the way.
Other questions or comments? Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, then how about we move on to the electric receptacles for the HVAC? Go ahead.
Yes, during the Prop 39 project installation of the HVAC systems on both schools previously mentioned, it was discovered that we were not in compliance with the electrical code of having those weatherproof outlets, service outlets. Therefore, our DSA inspector demanded and requested that the school would be in compliance. So that is the reason why we decided to move forward and be in compliance with that, so we can, at the end, very end of this project, we can have a closeout for our DSA and we shouldn't have any problems. So we are basically compliant again with electrical code for DSA.
Questions or comments?
So these outlets, are we just changing the actual outlet boxes, or are we having to rerun conduit and everything else to meet the needs? Because $70,000 to change outlets seems excessive.
Right, and it's basically not to change, it's actually to install new outlets. We didn't have any whatsoever out there. We were not compliant at all. We have to remember that those units that the project was selling, those old units, we're talking about 20, 25 years at least.
Okay, so the compliance that we're required to do, I just want people to understand why this is so expensive, is there was nothing in place currently. When we put in the new equipment, we need to go to code. And in order to go to code, we needed to put in these particular waterproof outlets within a certain range of those particular units.
Correct. So we had to install everything, the outlets, including the conduit, running the wiring, connecting it to the main feeder, electrical feeder.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
I have a question of Connie. The capital outlay fund, how much money is in there?
As the board recall, we call the capital outlay, it's actually the redevelopment agency pass-through. We have a couple $1 million there. And when the project started, we did a specific set some money aside because originally we know the project will be above the state grant. The state population grant is $1.3 million. And the initial project 3.5, and then when times go by, it's going to be 6. So board recall that we changed the units from the train units to carry units. So that reduces the scope work, and because changing units, the project go back to 1.5 million with the board grant of the contract to the Irvine Valley. So because this is unforeseeable additional cost once we start the project, so I did set aside $1 million to address this unforeseeable cost. So 1.3 million state grant, and I set aside $1 million from our fund to support the unforeseeable cost.
Other questions, comments? Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Long?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, let's move on to the gas lines then, please.
Again, another unforeseeable event here, unforeseeable conditions. That's what it's really called. As we were taking apart or removing those units, we also discovered our IOR, Inspector of Record, which works with the school district to make sure that all the project it's in compliance with DSA. We walk out there, we discovered that once we remove those the sections of those gas lines, they were corroded. Once you start removing those gas lines, the threads, they were corroded, and we cannot reconnect those. So the thing to do was to replace those sections of gas lines. So that's what we recommended in doing for the safety and for the efficient work of our AC units. I couldn't imagine having a brand new unit over there and having the gas line collapse and failing. So that was the right thing to do.
Have we made sure with all the utility replacements we've done since you've been here, I know you can't address before that, have we made sure our site plans have been updated to show what year those utilities were replaced? So that in the future, it wouldn't be unforeseen, we'd look, oh, those gas lines haven't been touched for 30 years. We know we're gonna have to replace them. Are our site plans getting updated to show at least when we replace utilities?
Pretty much what, every time there's construction, like in this case, we are doing as-builts, making sure that we document, we write down what took place, what was replaced, and that's what we do. Now, I cannot speak for prior to me, like you mentioned, but every project that we do, we make sure that those plans are revised with any updates from those projects.
Are those the site plans so that we have one place to go to say, oh yeah, these parts been replaced and that part hasn't? Or is that just a record and an as-built of the specific project? I know if I go to the project files for this, it will show the gas line was replaced.
Mm-hmm.
But if I go to Plymouth, I have to go to how many of our different files to find out what all gas lines have been replaced? Or is there one site plan that shows utilities and how old they are?
Well, there's a combination. There's the old site plans that, if you look at them now, in fact, I store them behind my office.
That's why I'm asking the question, because we haven't been updating those.
Those we have not been updated because we have not done any other projects other than what we're doing now.
Well, we did a whole bunch of projects, but I know you can't address whether those got changed. But
Mr.
I just
Gillen,
want to make sure that we're changing the site plan as we do this work, instead of someone in the future saying, well, I don't know what all's been replaced because I don't have the time to go through every contract and find out what all got replaced on that.
Right. So again, for this project, we're creating as-built, and those as-built are revisions of the existing plans for that site that show what work was done, what was replaced, and
Okay,
what
so the
not.
site plan is
Yes.
included in that.
That is the as-built.
Okay.
That's the as-built.
Okay, thanks.
That's a revision of the
That was the
plan.
whole question right
Mhm.
there. Other questions or comments?
I had a question for someone that doesn't know anything about gas lines. Hearing corroded gas lines sounds scary. And can you tell us why we don't need to replace all of the gas lines at all of the sites?
You know, first of all, those gas lines, the materials of those pipes, they're specific for that application. They're what we call the black pipe, which has a specific thickness to withstand those pressures, to withstand just the handling of gas and the outside elements. Now, in this case, once you go out there, you have to remember we have gas lines, again, that are 20, 30 years old, and they're still there. Once somebody goes out there and disturbs those gas lines, puts a pipe wrench on it, now it modifies what the consistency, or how can I word it? It'll modify that gas line. It'll damage it per se. We've had individuals from the gas company that has walked our roofs in CELC, for example. They saw those lines. We had there was a gas smell. It wasn't from the rooftop. It was from somewhere else. They saw those lines. Those individuals are trained to identify and see if there's an imminent danger on any corroded lines, such as like the ones we have. So that is why, once you disturb that, the threads, they're corroded, but it has not reached the inner walls of that those pipes, those gas lines.
So the pipes they're a certain gauge, right? So
Yeah.
they're a certain thickness, and we're not concerned about the ones that haven't been disrupted on other sites.
Correct. I'm not concerned. We're not concerned. I feel I can speak surely that those lines are in.
So in general, gas lines that haven't been disturbed are generally fine. Gas lines, once they're disturbed, can be damaged to a point that could be a catastrophic failure, and so they need to be replaced.
Correct.
Is that basically what?
That's basically it.
So it's like a window. So imagine you have a window that's painted shut. As long as you don't touch the window, the paint looks fine and everything is perfect. The moment you force the window open, the paint not only where the crease is, but everywhere around the window is going to crack and you need to repaint. So when you're replacing parts to the gas line specifically, you have to replace everything or else it's not going to work the way it was supposed to. But if you left it alone completely, it's really not unsafe. It's perfectly intact, but it's once you do a change to it, you can't put it back.
In fact, once they removed those sections of the pipelines, I was able to see the inside, the thickness. The thickness was still healthy, but the threads, they were not able to be put back again. We didn't want to put them back, to be honest. It was just common sense that we had to replace those sections of gas line.
Other questions or comments? Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Sorry. Trying to multitask. Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, moving on to asphalt replacement at the MOT yard.
I believe we have some slides.
That one is waking up.
So not sure if every one of you has had a chance to visit our great MOT yard. The asphalt there, it's been terribly bad for many years. If you recall, we just purchased 5 new diesel buses. With recent rains and all that stuff, you can stand right there in the asphalt. It's pretty wavy, especially where our buses are parked. You can tell it's down a few inches. That existing asphalt is actually about 2 inches thick, to where it has completely failed. It failed. There's no way of adding a slurry seal or seal coat. It's beyond that, as you will see on this slide. So when is it time to replace your asphalt? When one's considering replacing asphalt, they must consider 3 things. Drainage. The drainage goes to where my office is, and actually all that front section. So the drainage is not, it's just not right. It's going the wrong direction. Now, is the asphalt going to be exposed to heavy weight? Yes, it is. We have those buses. We have equipment going through there. Is the current asphalt salvageable? And what determines that? When you see distressed pavement, you know it right away. If there's widespread alligator cracking, it's time to get to the root of the issue, the subgrade. On the top, you'll see how those 3 layers are composed. You have the hot mix asphalt, crushed stone base. It's followed by sand, gravel, and sub base, and we are at the subgrade. We have reached the subgrade at this point. Subgrade is vital and serves as the structural foundation. To remedy heavy traffic in rainforest, we need a compact subgrade. To prepare for weight-bearing loads, subgrade compacting must be achieved. Typically is 95%. And once that's done, they go out there and measure it. And they know if it's at the right compaction rate. Once we get there, the installation of aggregate rock base, bringing recycled base material to serve as a base foundation to support the loads. Asphalt is pliable, so constructing on rock base, it's ideal for that flexibility. Firm and unyielding. Machine roll the rock base to firm and unyielding. Construct asphalt on rock base. Salvage or no salvage? When you have very large areas that are not broken up, alligator cracking or displaced, one would salvage the asphalt. It would be the best to set up maintenance schedule of seal coat every 3 to 4 years to preserve the life of the asphalt. This is important. This is important as we did the asphalt over at Mayflower. We need to do that. And this is the reason why that asphalt and many asphalt throughout our sites have failed, because we have not maintained it according to that cycle. And we need to bring that back up in our maintenance reoccurring schedule. When you have alligator cracking everywhere, the asphalt is in the geriatric, I hope I pronounced it right, state, and vegetation is in every crack. We have weeds coming through our yard at this moment. Displaying, probably time to replace the asphalt right away. So that's where we are at. Oops. Oh. MOTR current conditions. That is the condition of our yard. In those pictures, you cannot appreciate exactly how, if you look back, like I mentioned earlier, in the buses, they are below grade. They're about 2 to 3 inches below the general grade of the asphalt. Very comparable to what we saw on the first couple of slides, the alligator crack, the alligator condition. So that's pretty much it.
So what is the condition of the sub-foundation at this point?
If you see where the cones are, and if you look pretty much everywhere, that's good indication where it's not even. You have different areas where it's below grade, indented. So that's a good indication that's telling you that that foundation has failed.
So in this particular case, really our only option is to remove and replace.
Remove and replace.
What are you estimating the cost to be to remove and replace all of the necessary areas within the MOT yard? So
the overall square footage for that, it's somewhere between 34 and 36,000 square feet. I received 2 quotes, with one a third quote did not come through. The contractor said they didn't want to bid, so I got 2 bids. So the lowest bid for that one, it's $104,000.
$140,000.
$104,900.
What would be the cost to put cement in?
I want to estimate it would probably triple. I would rather have concrete.
Everybody would rather have concrete. That's why I want to know what we were looking at.
Most likely it'll triple the cost.
At least. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, I want to go back to, when did you go out to bid on these?
I'm sorry?
When did you go out to get the bid?
God, this was, I want to say, back in May, somewhere around there, May or so, and I had to get a revised quote to be able to present a fresh quote from both contractors.
Did it change from May to now?
It did, and the fact that it changed is because when a project exceeds $25,000, by law, we are required to get a performance bond from a contractor, which that adds cost. And a performance bond is pretty much like an insurance that, the contractor is going to be performing 100% per the contract. And if it fails after that, we have that warranty, that extended warranty from
did we do an RFP or an RFQ?
No, we did not. And the reason is because since this falls under, we are a CUPCA district.
Oh, I remember CUP. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I remember. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yes, and since this is below the $175,000 limit, that's why we did an informal bid and we didn't go with a formal bid, with an RFP.
What's an RFP?
Request for proposal. It's when you go out to do a public job, it's put out to bid to people, and then people are invited to respond, and you get you would think a larger pool of people responding to your job. So when you see the costs coming in, they'll fall in line, and you can start seeing what the job is really entailing. What was the other?
What
was the other bid?
It was $112,000, somewhere around there. Yes.
Do you have any familiarity with the company who is the $104,000?
I do. They're the ones who did the Mayflower pavement. I've worked with them before, and at my previous district as well.
Kupka, baby.
Yes, I worked with actually both companies that provided that quote. With all those three companies, and the third one that didn't want to provide a quote, I also have worked with them. So I am familiar, and they are familiar with me very well, to the point where they know that I scrutinize pretty much everything. We walked aside, we pointed out why this, why that. They know that I question a lot.
Other questions or comments?
Yes, a couple things. You mentioned the maintenance, the seal coat of 3 to 4 years. Did we consider putting some type of maintenance agreement within the contract? And also, what is the expected longevity of the asphalt, assuming we do the maintenance on it that you're speaking to?
I'm just going to throw an estimate, but easily 15, 20 years if we do the recurring maintenance, maybe more.
And so do we ever try, whether it's through the CUPTA bids or RFPs, do we ever try to negotiate these maintenance items that you're speaking of in these contracts with the same company, so that maybe we get some kind of break in price because we're also going to contract with them for the future maintenance?
I have not considered doing that at this point, but that is not a bad idea.
Well,
Maybe.
Fernando, I was in the business for almost 40 years, and I'm going to tell you, all the contractors that I ever talked to about some kind of long-term agreement said, if you can tell me what the price of asphalt will be next week, I'll consider a contract for next week. But you can't even dream what the price of asphalt might be 5 years from now. So there's no way I'm going to bid on something that might take place 5 years from now.
And I think that's one of the challenges,
That's
because
been the
if
challenge,
you
yeah.
saw on that slide, you know, the recommended recurring maintenance for slurry seal, which is just a thin seal coat, it's from 3 to 4 years. So it's you cannot predict what's going to happen. Mr. Gilliland is right. You cannot predict what the cost is going to be in 2, 3, 4 years. And let me reassure you that the seal coat is comparably cheap.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
But you
Thank
might
you.
talk to them about it and see if they're,
We can lock them
amenable
into
to
a
it. We
great.
could lock them in, that'd be great.
Do we know what the availability is? This is normally not something that you do during the middle of the school year, I imagine. So what is the scheduled timeline and lead time that's required to do this type of a job?
We're thinking about somewhere around the winter break. This job will take at the most 4 days. At the most 4 days. We have a plan already in place as to where we're going to be parking our buses, probably most likely in the back. We'll have a path of travel. In the meantime, for our white fleet, for our staff to go in and out, maintenance and whatnot. So that's the plan.
A short while back, we got an update from Business Services Department that the Colorado parking lot, the parking lot on the
driveway
at the high school on the east side of the high school, needed some asphalt repair. Have you considered doing either both of the jobs simultaneously or close enough together so that we can work with the same company, get a good deal, and save money any way that we can by doing those together or close together?
Yes, in fact, we already got quotes for that section of the driveway. It was delayed because of the city, what they had going on, taking out all our trees and all that, so they interfere. That was already in the works. That was already scheduled. We would have to reschedule, and most likely that would be the ideal time during the winter break to do both.
I think the question is, have you considered putting both of those bids together as a singular bid to drive the cost down?
Too late.
Well,
The other one's already let, right?
I'm sorry?
The Colorado side job is already awarded, right? I mean, we've
It
already
has been
got a
awarded.
contract.
Oh, it is.
So we can't attach this one to that one?
I can try. I can try.
Is the
But-
contractor that's doing the Colorado side
The
one of
same
the
one.
people that quoted on this job?
It's the same one.
It's the same one, so,
So it's the same one anyway.
yeah.
It's the same one. Yes. I was able to lower the cost from the Colorado Drive to I think it was $2,500. Yes, because I was just able to do it because they had already done Mayflower, and I was able to negotiate that.
Yeah, negotiate it, bound down a little more based on this project. Any other questions or comments? All right, could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we'll move on to variable term waivers for speech and language and hearing specialist, Dr. Jackson.
Board President Gilliland, members of the board, Dr. Tarosian, cabinet, members of the community. The Board of Education is requested to approve the variable term waiver application for the 2019-2020 school year for Evelyn Bauer. Variable term waivers allow the individuals holding waivers to complete their credential requirements while serving in the district. Ms. Bowers is currently enrolled in a Master's of Science in Communicative Disorders program at Cal State University Northridge and is eligible to apply for a variable term waiver. Approval of this variable term waiver will allow Evelyn Bauer to be employed as a speech, language, and hearing specialist with the Monrovia Unified School District, and there are no budgetary implications.
Any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, then we'll move on to the request to modify record of student ID number 222200874 under Ed Code 49070. The board has reviewed the testimony. The board has reviewed 2 different videos that have been provided to us. We've reviewed all the statements that have been presented in association with this case. We've heard from Mr. Blanton tonight. Is there any question for Mr. Blanton or comment that's appropriate for public, for open session? Any? Well, not hearing any, then we'll have to adjourn to closed session to deliberate this, and we will come back out here for any formal action on this. All right, so we'll recess to closed session and be back We will reconvene the board meeting at 8:50, the open session, and return to item 7, request to modify student record. We have individually and as a group reviewed the videos, the testimony, the letters, all the documentation associated with this case. We have heard public comment tonight. We have deliberated in closed session. And is there any last minute questions from the board or comments? Could I have a motion, please?
I move to uphold the decision of the superintendent regarding the request to modify the record of student number 222-200-874 pursuant to Education Code 49070.
I'll second.
Ms. Huff, please take the vote.
Board Member Hammond?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
I'm sorry, could you read that again? Was that to modify or not to modify?
It was to uphold the superintendent's decision.
To not to modify, correct?
Her decision was not to modify.
Right, that's the superintendent's decision.
Okay. Sorry, just want to make sure it was clear.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Lockerbie?
Yes.
Board Member Travanti?
Yes.
Board President Gilliland?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. We'll move on to pending board issues. Are there any changes or anything we should be aware of?
Yes, President Gilliland, there is just the one addition of the discipline and accompanying administrative regulations for our board policies. And that has been listed as an issue that will come back to the board in October.
All right. Any additions, comments, questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
The plan that we got from the Amigos de los Rios for the grant that they have
For the
they've already
landscaping
written,
at the high
right?
school.
Right. They've already written that grant, right? Yes. And then we were offered a variety of plans, or what is not presented, or we can do something else. Should we bring that back, or should we wait until we find out about the grant?
Ms. Wu, can you provide us with an update this Friday about where we are with the grant process? And maybe we should agendize it for the next board meeting to discuss further? Is that, did I understand correctly?
I recall it's going to take a few months to find out about the grant.
That's
so
correct.
should we talk about it before we find out about the grant, or should we wait until we found out if we were awarded the grant? It is honestly
What would
a
we be
question.
talking about is my question.
Well, we were offered 3 plans, 3 landscaping
Scenario.
options.
But
Or
part
the
of that-
option of
part
doing
that will
something else.
depend on the grant, right?
My understanding is the 3 design option is just a sample for board review. And once the district offer the grant after 2 to 3 months, and depend on the board input, that design can be redo or
Modified.
That's correct.
So should we talk about that before?
What would be the time frame after the grant's awarded that we would have to implement that grant, theoretically?
Yeah,
A year, 2
I will
years?
check. I will check for the grant period in the implementation or the time window for expenditure for the grant. I will ask that question for you and put in today this week's update. I don't have that information right now.
So you'll give us an update on that and where we're at with the grant, or where they are within the grant.
Yes.
And then at our next board meeting, we can decide what the timing might be for discussion of the option. I mean, if we're not gonna get the grant, why waste the time, but yeah. All right. Anything else on the pending Is that item on our pending board issues?
It will be in 2 weeks.
All right. Good. All right, moving on to old business. The next board meetings are August 28th, September 11th, and September 25th at 7 p.m. Anything else under old business? New business, we have a bunch of back-to-school nights, and if you're on the board and haven't signed up for that, please sign that list so that Ms. Huff will know who's going to which back-to-school night. Other dates to calendar, September the 2nd is Labor Day, and all sites will be closed. And on October 16th, we're planning the State of the District address and presentation at Monrovia High School. So that, be sure to calendar that date. Do we have a time for that? Is that at 6 p.m., 5 p.m.?
I believe we're 6:30 is what we were tentatively scheduled.
Okay, tentatively say 6:30, and we will finalize that timing on that. Any other new business?
Yes, I would, Ed. With the discussion of potentially changing the front of the school with a grant, I know that there were trees that were taken out, and there's going to be trees that are being brought in. Let's not have something put in that might not meet with what we're going to be doing with the front of the school. So let's be cognizant of that.
Yes, Ms. Wu, let's make sure to liaise with our grant writers and the city and maybe coordinate efforts so that we can be really making the best of both
That's a good
worlds.
point.
Yeah.
And the trees are coming onto our side of the fence now, and so we want to make sure that.
We already scheduled a meeting, and I believe it's next week. So I will definitely report to the board in the update regarding of the meetings.
And has the consultant that's working on this grant been invited to that meeting?
That's correct. I will double check, and we do invite the consultant to come here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Claire Robinson who the board met her during the presentation, the study section.
Great.
Can we find out if the trees are going on our property? Can we find out if, because what I understood from the city was that the city was going to replant the trees. So can
Usually
we find
on a 2-to-1 ratio.
Can we find out what financial responsibility the city is going to provide for those trees if beyond just the purchase of the trees?
Absolutely.
Because trees need to be watered, and in the first several years of being planted, they need to be watered consistently and regularly. So I understand that we're going to try and adhere to the environmental aspect of Prop 39? But are they going to pay to water them?
Yeah, I can definitely check. I just have a question. I'm not quite sure I can ask. Does the board interested in other option? I think the tree is also will maintain and trim on an annual basis. So I would like to ask the city whether instead of the tree, are they willing to just give us the cost of tree or have as part of the design with the grant? That's a question I would ask. That's I'm thinking about right now.
And I'm sticking my foot in my mouth right now, but I think there's been a conversation about getting an MOU.
Yes, Board Vice President Hammond, there has, in a discussion with City Manager Chi, we discussed some of the variables and wanted to make sure to codify them so that there's no doubt. And we'll start working on that kind of agreement in the near, well,
I'm sorry.
Be well before September 30th.
Memorandum of Understanding, which would be the document that oversees the trees as they come in, who does the maintenance on it, and it will record it so that when we're no longer here and Kathy's no longer the superintendent and Oliver is no longer the city manager, wherever, 20 years from now, someone can get the piece of paper out and go, oh yeah, I'm supposed to trim the trees and it doesn't cost the school district money, or whatever it is. We're going to get it all put down on a piece of paper so that everybody knows what everybody's supposed to do.
So I don't think any of us answered your question, actually, Connie. So that might need to be a discussion.
It's
Because
a
your
work in
question
progress.
was, could we do something other than trees?
Yeah, do we
think
have an
that needs-
option?
I think that needs to be a discussion.
I think between you, the city, and the grant people who are doing this, you guys can hammer it out and tell me what the result is. And I'm perfectly happy with that.
I'm happy with that.
I think if it's on city property, I think we should have a say.
There is no city property.
I mean, I meant district property.
Oh, I agree. That's why Connie's going to hold
Oh,
the conversation.
okay.
I'm nominating
So
Connie to
you're
have
going
that
to advocate
conversation.
for us. Thank you, thank you.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with Brian. If, you know, and especially if the consultant that's gonna do the landscape plan in the front is gonna work
They're all
on
sitting
whatever their
all the
agreement is,
Exactly.
yeah. Okay, any other new business? Then I want to adjourn the meeting tonight. We would like to close our meeting in honor of the parents of two very special Monrovia Unified School District staff. First, John Sturgeon, father of Brad Oaks principal Jane Nichols, passed away recently. He was 71 years old. Wow, I'm 71. And secondly, Angel B. Collado, father of theater operations specialist Angelo Collado. Our thoughts and prayers are with these family, and we grieve the loss of these MUSD family members. And with that, we will adjourn this meeting at 9:02.